Of course, an hour before we released our Rift news, Riot released a cinematic for the Lunar event, they revealed 6 new champions for Wild Rift, and about a dozen new skins on top of that. But most importantly, we also got the results of the VGU and skins poll. All of these together would be enough material for another Rift news video, but instead I want to focus specifically on the results of the poll. Because since the new VGUs are usually shaped around the champion's story, there is a lot to talk about here. So, let's get into the post. Surprise surprise, big spoiler I guess, Udyr and Crime City Nightmare won. It all starts with the title, the first VGU of 2022. At first I thought that this was a mistake, because I was hoping it would arrive in late 2021 at the very least. But no, as you'll see, the Udyr VGU is planned for early 2022. Which is strange, because I recall Riot mentioning that since they scrapped the mysterious VGU coming after Mundo, this VGU would be next. But since this one is coming in 2022, doesn't that mean that besides Mundo there will be no other VGUs this year? Hopefully that will not be the case. We always get at least 2 VGUs per year. But as of right now, we have no idea what else we could get later this year. Actually, yesterday we got the confirmation that unfortunately we will only get 1 VGU this year. It is mostly due to what is happening in the world. All the unexpected delays led to Riot cancelling the next VGU. And unfortunately they didn't have anything planned instead of it. So in 2021 we are only getting Mundo. Anyway, the post starts by mentioning that unlike it was with the last VGU poll, where the results were so close, Riot decided to rework both Fiddlesticks and Volibear. This time the winner won by a landslide, and it was no other than Udyr. Skarner and Shyvana being not so close second makes sense. Both of them have really strong player bases, with Shyvana always being there for the memes, and Skarner getting a new wave of popularity after the release of Seraphine. Although, I doubt that Riot would do anything major to Skarner if he got the VGU. You can't really redesign a Crystal Scorpion without turning him into something else. Close after them there was Nocturne, who is fine design-wise, but could use some new in-character abilities gameplay-wise. And lastly there is Quinn. She's old, and she could use an update. But no one really cares about her. I wouldn't mind if she actually died in the book. Regardless, I am glad that Udyr won, because A, his character is really interesting in the current story, so I would love to see it move even further. And B, have you seen his model? Those beads are actually octahedrons. His animations are stiffer than Tommy Wiseau's performance, and his overall model has a polygon count equal to original Lara Croft. It is so bad I wouldn't be surprised if he was hiding pizza feet. There is only one model worse than this one, and that would be Cho'Gath. I can't believe he didn't appear in any of the polls yet. Anyway, let's continue with what the post says. Not only was he ahead by a lot when all the votes were combined, Udyr was also far ahead in every region individually as well. We have heard loud and clear that you all want to see Udyr brought up to modern champion standards, and that's just what we are going to do. Funnily enough, this happened just as Udyr was picked up by ProPlay 2. Just like the last couple of VGUs, we'll be doing a few dev blocks to update all of you on the progress as we move along. We'll start work on Udyr's update soon, and plan to have it ready for early 2022. So let's kick things off with a few words from some of our developers, who will start to reimagine Udyr for his big update. First we have a word from the gameplay designer Stashu. They talk about how ever since they joined League, Udyr's kit always looked exciting to them. But as the game evolved around him, Udyr slowly fell behind. So they will try to do his classic stand dancing style justice, by pushing his unique powers and playstyle of each stance, while keeping him the heavy-hitting full melee fighter. And here we get into the first topic I want to talk about, Udyr's stances. In my opinion, it will be crucial to keep Udyr's abilities the same they always were. Don't give him any active abilities that would do things when you press them. By this I mean, don't give him an ability that's a dash, or a leg sweep, or a heavy punch. Every single ability from his Q to his ultimate should change his stance as it always was. This is by far the most unique thing about Udyr. He is the only champion in the game who doesn't have an ability that directly affects the enemy. He only has abilities that change himself. No other champion has this. so please don't throw this away. But now you may be asking, if you want all the abilities to stay the same, how would they even update his gameplay? And the answer is quite simple. You give him more unique stances. In fact, as scary as it sounds, you can go from 4 to 8. And here is how it would work. Every ability would be categorized by what they do. Q is damage, W is endurance, E is crowd control, and R is mobility. But each of these abilities would toggle between two stances. Q would be Tiger and Phoenix, W would be Turtle and Ram, E would be Bear and Boar, and R would be Lynx and Eagle. So for example, on the first Q press, you would shift into Tiger, and on the second use you would shift into Phoenix, after which you can go back to Tiger. Then you could go to Bear stance, to Phoenix stance, to Boar stance, and perhaps back to Tiger stance. So the reason why I decided to pair the stances up is because not only would this reflect the fact that Udyr has dozens of different stances, but as long as you keep the categories of those stances the same, Udyr will keep his classic feel. So let's go into detail so you understand what I'm talking about. Let's say his Tiger stance is exactly the same. When you activate it, you get a burst of single target damage. But after this, the Phoenix would also give you more damage, but this time it would be as a cleave. Of course, this would mean that for a single target damage, Tiger would be better than Phoenix. But regardless, at the back of your mind, you would know that Q is your damaging ability. Since W is all about endurance, passively you would get lifesteal in either of them. But Turtle would give you the shield, while Ram would give you resistances. Theoretically, if you boil it down, both abilities do the exact same thing. They make you survive longer. But again, it plays to the stance shifting theme. Then, since his E is about crowd control, the Bear stance would be the same. It would stun the enemy you hit. But the Boar stance would be very similar. Just instead of a stun, the Boar would knock you up. That would be within the theme of what the animal does. And lastly, his R would be about mobility. So Lynx would give him a short dash when he shifts, since currently Udyr has something similar in his bear form, while Eagle would give him flat movement speed. So in either case, whenever you are chasing someone, R would give you mobility. I honestly do believe that this would keep Udyr's original feel, while updating him into something better. Also, since the stances would be designed to make you passively aware of what each button press roughly does, Udyr would also stay as a simple to play champion, because that's one of the big reasons why people even play him. Then again, the simplicity would be a subjective opinion, since he would still have 8 stances. But really, if Riot made Aphelios work, surely they could do this to Udyr without any issues. Also, if you think that I made up dumb animals for the stances, in reality I pulled them from the lore. Besides the classic Tiger, which is really a saber-tooth, Turtle, Bear and Phoenix, in the story Silence for the Damned, it was revealed that he can also shift through, and I quote, the Undying Eagle, the Clever Lynx, the Iron Boar, and a dozen more spirit beasts. He paused when he assumed the aspect of the bear spirit. With perfect control, he matched the shape of the giant beast looming above him. Then, finally, Udyr changed from the bear into its sworn enemy, the spirit of fire, Hearth and Forge, the Great Ram. But now, even though all of this may sound cool, it brings up one big problem. The reason why Udyr didn't get a lot of skins was because Riot always had to make 5 separate models for each skin. There is the base Udyr and then 4 stances. So it was as if Riot was making 5 skins at the same time. So I'm not sure if 8 stances would really fix the problem. You could play around this by keeping the base Udyr the same and then only giving him small elements from the animals, similarly to what the Spirit Guard Udyr does. There, if you ignore the fact that his entire body changes as you level the abilities up, his base model stays the same, but he only gets new effects around his arms. This is honestly how Riot should combat this issue. But the reason why I really wanted to bring this up is because this issue may scare Riot into only giving him 3 or 4 stances, while according to the lore, he can shift into 4 times as many. So in my opinion, it will be important to give him as many as possible. But now, let's go back to the post. Next we have words from the concept artist, Riot Earp, who tells us that visually, they will try and keep all the things which already work around Udyr. such as his ancient primal nature vibes, the fact that his stances are his primary focus, but also they will try and make sure that Freljord stays his home. And here we got the first concept as to what may Udyr look like. And you can see that he kinda looks like the Spirit Guard version, which honestly I am happy with. If you don't know, Udyr's story took him all over Runeterra. He started as a rough boy in Freljord, there he met Lee Sin, he traveled with him to Ionia, there he became at peace with the local spirits, turning him into the Spirit Guard version. Yes, I am telling you that this skin is actually canon in the story. But after that, Udyr heard the call of the Freljord, and so he returned back to his homeland. There he fought a local Freljordian spirit to get himself spiritually attuned to the Freljord again, and after that he returned to Sejuani, who is actually his daughter even though she likely doesn't even know it. Technically, the image that shows Udyr in his current form is this one. Up in far north of the Freljord, Udyr is getting a bit mad, because as a spirit walker, he can hear all the spirits and animals around him. But since the animals there are quite wild, they can really dig deep into his mind. Anyway, the reason why I wanted to show you this image is because while this looks like the Udyr we have now, he did technically wear bear hide to keep himself warm after he returned from Ionia. So beneath that, we can still have the newly reworked Udyr. Also, I quickly wanna point out his tattoos. Obviously, it is just a concept, but in the Freljord, tattoos are usually connected to the tribes, and their shape matters a lot. So while someone like Braum has these square tattoos, the shamans and berserkers tend to use more jagged versions which resemble primal runes. And I would love it if each of Udyr's tattooed symbols represented one primal spirit. Specifically, we know that there is a rune for Valir, so I will be patiently looking for Volibear references. And lastly, we have a word from the narrative lead, a highwayman. Udyr has such an untamed, deeply human core. We want to do that hard justice, so we'll be digging into how our favorite shaman can keep wrestling with everything on his mind, while more deeply connecting with the ferocity and spirit of the Freljord in his own unique way. The narrative team on League has been thinking about him and his place in Runeterra for a while now, so I'm excited to finally give him the full attention he deserves. Here I want to give the narrative team some of my feedback. Honestly, Udyr is in a really awesome place when it comes to his story. It is very interesting, very unique, and it is connected to a lot of other champions. The story Silence for the Damned became one of my favorite stories ever, which kinda tells you that you are taking Udyr in the right direction. But every time there is a new VGU, you guys make the same mistake. You always change some parts of the champion's base story. So when the new Udyr arrives, I don't want to see any changes to his bio whatsoever. There is literally no reason for you to change his story. Whenever it happens, all it does is confuse people, because now there are things which were retconned. All I want to get is a new story that explains what happened to Udyr and why his appearance changed. Keep the old appearance canon, keep the Spirit Guard canon. All I want to see is Udyr's story go forward without any changes to his past story. This literally never happened before. The closest we got was Akali. But even she got half of her bio changed, and she got an entire new plot point which she didn't really need. So all I'm trying to say is please just give me one new Udyr story and I'll be happy. Whenever the base bios change, it messes up with all the videos I made in the past. And there is no way for me to change some tiny details in like the 4 or 5 stories we have already released on Udyr. So please, just don't touch it. He really doesn't need it. To end this video, let's have a look at the other half of this post. Surprise, surprise, Crime City won. Considering the popularity of edgelords such as Zed or Kayn, this was obvious.